It was predicted as far back as 1999 by the CLUETRAIN manifesto that companies who speak in the language of the pitch are no longer speaking to anyone. Well, you're going to enjoy this conversation on Leaders and Legends with Bob Lennon, because the language of the pitch is the furthest thing away from what he's doing with Northern Heat. He is the pretty face of Thermalwood Canada. And Bob, I'm going to throw you right into the thrust of what we're talking about, why we so admire your work, because you're bringing a sense of humanity into the B2B, business to business environment with what you're doing every Friday on the Northern Heat Report. And I'm going to start right here with this one. I want you to see the screen, and Bob, tell us the story of how this materialized one day on the Northern Heat Report, where you are sitting down and having a conversation with this young gentleman.
Well, this is my grandson, Aiden, and last summer he ended up buying himself a small little go-kart that, gas powered, and he needed some money to pay for gas because he spent everything on buying the little go-kart in the first place. So one Friday night he asked me, he said, listen, he said, do you think you could hire me? I'd like to go work at Thermalwood. So I went, all right. So what do you want to do? And he said, well, I can clean up and mop the floors and do all this stuff. And so we went through a formal interview. He presented himself quite well. And so that's how it started. So every Friday last summer, he would come in to work with me. I'd pick him up at home, either with the vehicle, or we'd bike to work together. And we'd come in and he'd work for 4 hours and would follow along with what we're doing in business and talk to us. And so I think I did about 3 or 4 interviews with him during the summertime about his experience and what he was doing. And it was a great experience to have, my 9-year-old grandson with me every Friday. And it's not something that everybody has a chance to do. And it was just a great experience for me. It was a great experience for him. And hopefully it comes back this summer.
And Bob, I think that story of you and your grandson, Aiden, captures the spirit of what we're noticing about how companies, especially in B2B environments, have to put somehow a human face in the digital space. And I can't think of a more human way to do that, because by way of introduction, Thermalwood Canada, you're in northern New Brunswick, you're in the city of Bathurst. And let's just give people some very quick perspective on what you folks, Pierre and Jonathan and the whole crew, are doing out there with thermally modified wood. This is a highly specialized, Bob, niche product. Can you summarize it real quickly so our viewers understand exactly what you're bringing to markets all over the world?
Well, we're a high-end wood manufacturing company, and we do anything that's got to do with wood. We cut components, we do decking, we do siding. We're very involved in the music industry, in supplying thermally modified necks for guitars and components for guitars and bodies and stuff. And what we do in our process only uses heat and steam. So it's a very environmentally friendly product, using heat and steam to transform the wood. And in that transformation, we make the wood a very beautiful looking product because it darkens it up in color. It makes it very, very stable in high humid areas. And at the same time, it also makes it rot resistant. So you don't have to use chemicals in your product. So anybody that is environmentally conscious, this is a product that they can use.
But somewhere along the line, the quality, the high quality of the product notwithstanding, which has to be there, we all agree. Somewhere along the line, though, in your role as chief marketing officer, you fully embraced this idea of becoming your own media company, of producing your own content so people could see beyond just the logo, the products. What I'd really love to hear you weigh in on, Bob, is how have all of your digital marketing efforts, your videos, et cetera, how do you think they've impacted the research phase? I think so many people now, it's make or break. People are finding out about companies, especially yours, all over the world. They go to they go to Google, and then that's when the buying process starts. I'd like you to weigh in with your thoughts on how
Well,
Thermalwood Canada has benefited.
okay, so all our videos and everything we do in Northern Heat has actually nothing to do with our business. It's all got to do about the community. It's got to do about people in the region, people in the Maritimes, because I do interview people outside the Maritimes, are outside our region. But the whole concept is to get people to know who we are. And at the same time, we're promoting our region. So it's like sponsoring a ball team or a hockey team or a soccer team. We actually sponsor our region. But at the end of the day, the whole concept around it is for people to get to know who we are personally. And so, Gary, it's no different than you go into a store and you have, there's two sales agents there. One of them you know very well, and one of them you've never met before. Who would you buy from? You're going to buy from the person that you know because you've got this comfort. You have a feeling that if something went wrong, that at least you know you're being taken care of. You're not going to get fleeced. There's a whole pile of things that happen because if you don't know the person that you get to, you're trying to, whether you notice it or not, you're trying to size that person up. Well, in this case, when they end up calling us up, they've already sized me up. They've already talked to us. They already know the business. They already know who we are. And it's like calling your best friend and saying, hey, listen, I have a problem and I'd like you to help me with it. And I'm building a deck or I'm building a house or I'm doing this. I'm looking for certain things. And then we get into a conversation. Now, how that all leads to Google is that the more often that people view our videos, and we also post not only on Facebook, well, we also use YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel. They're all interconnected, whether we like it or not, and they're all interconnected to Google. So when somebody starts the conversation, as you were talking about, that they're looking for something, they Google thermally modified wood, we float to the top. All because we're promoting our region and talking and getting people to know who we are.
Not only do you float to the top, Bob, but if someone is seriously considering making a substantial purchase and they look up Thermalwood Canada, then they go to your website. Strategically, you've got something right on the website. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and share it with other business leaders who are watching, because you've got this movie trailer video right in a prominent position. It's the first thing you see. And then as soon as people push click, they don't see the typical corporate video. They don't see the 100,000 square feet of state-of-the-art facilities with factory-trained technicians. Instead, they see you eyeball to eyeball with the camera telling a story about what it's like to be underestimated, to be in a remote location, and yet performing at a world-class level. Just weigh in with your thoughts, Bob, on how this has impacted Thermalwood Canada.
Well, again, this all comes back to the fact of my love for the region, my love for the area, and again, you talk about the underestimated. Well, we underestimate ourselves, and we devalue ourselves because we've always thought that the Maritimes and especially northern New Brunswick has been the have-nots of Canada, and as you know, through COVID and through everything else we've actually ended up being showcased and being elevated quite a bit with all we've done and the numbers that we've had and where the province has situated ourselves. So it's time to really get out there and promote our area and promote our region and what we have to offer. And this again demonstrates, without getting into all the social media part, it again demonstrates who we are.
And you've over a couple of years now, it's been I think a couple of years since you started doing this, you're getting all kinds of reactions. Tell us about the reactions, the actual human responses to the different types of stories that you share.
Well, it comes from a different places. I'm sharing the stories, and you also have shared some of our stories in the work and the boot camps that you're doing, and I've had people that have sat in on some of your sessions have actually called me up and said, "Listen, I was listening to you and your story through Gare Maxwell," and he said, "You're the type of people I want to deal with," and they call me up and want to start business. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I had a gentleman from Colorado that went online, Googled this as we just talked about. We floated to the top. He looked at what we had. He actually watched the video, and from that video called me up and he said, "Your values and the way that you think are identical to the way I think, and you're the type of person I want to do business with." And actually, since then, he's placed an order. And so it's pretty impressive that within a 3 week period from him going online, listening to what we had to say, calling me up, getting back to me, I quoted him, sent him samples, and once he received the samples, so that validated the product, but he had already validated who we were prior to that. The product was just the final straw. And once he got that, he called me up, he sent me what he wanted, placed his order.
Bob, you and I have been, friends for a long time, and we know that in the first month of the release of what we call your signature video, your flagship video that's on the homepage that anyone can go look at, you got something like 18,000 views, but more importantly, I think 104 shares. What does this say? How do you explain from your experience to business leaders now about how crucial it is to create content that potential customers will actually share and do the marketing for you? How would you weigh in on that?
Well, it comes back to, you said a media company, right? And if you're going to sit down and watch a video, you have to have some kind of a compelling story going on behind. So, I really try to search for the people I want to interview, because it's their story that's going to pull and drag this whole concept along. So it's really understanding who they are and really trying to find. I find sometimes I'm like a producer trying to produce that great trailer, that great film that is going to take you to another level. And then that's what drags you along. That's what pulls you. And so it's finding the right people, and then while you're there, it's also asking the right questions. So people will really want to say, "Okay, hold, hang on. I really want to watch the rest of this so I can see, so I can find out what's going on."
I think one of the greatest credits to you, Bob, and your team with Pierre and Jonathan and everyone in Thermalwood, Canada, is that you guys have rallied around this. And the Northern Heat Report is consistent. It's on every Friday. You've got a new show. I love it. Northern Heat is shorthand for people. You're showcasing people who are bringing the heat, making a difference in their community. How important is it in your mind to be consistent with your publishing efforts?
Well, it's like going to the gym and getting yourself in shape. After a while, if you miss a day, you feel awful guilty about it. So, that's one thing that happens. But you're absolutely right. You get into a routine, you get out there, and people get used to the hour that it gets posted and the consistency that's there, and they're kind of waiting. It's like you're watching the series on TV, and if you really like the series, you're going to make sure that every Tuesday night at 8:30 you're in front of that television waiting for that show, or you're going to videotape it, right? So thank God Facebook has you can go back and look at some of these things. So, but it's the same concept.
Bob, I'm sure you have your share of stories. You had no idea. I think when you started, you had maybe 3 Facebook friends. You're up to around 1,500. Your digital footprint is consistently expanding. But what are some of the more funnier or quirky stories that have occurred since you've become this quasi media celebrity from Northern New Brunswick?
Well, there's all kinds of different stories out there, but the fun part, and if I can say the fun part to this now, is the fact that I get calls from people saying that, "Would it be possible for us to be on your show? Could you interview us on your show?" Because they've got a message that they want to give. Or when I do talk to them because they've been referred to me by somebody else, they'll tell me that they're honored to the fact that they're on there. And Gare, I don't know how to explain that, but there's a feeling of warmth that comes across you when that happens, and it's a feel good thing for yourself, but at the same time that you're able to get that emotion going with those people is pretty incredible.
I think if I understand it correctly, Bob, from your perspective, what you've done with your social media and your signature video and your overall strategy is you've really in a B2B environment selling highly specialized niche product, you really kickstarted into high gear the like, know, and trust factors that are so crucial in B2B sales.
No, you're absolutely right. And the thing is too is that you mentioned it at the beginning. It's a highly specialized process, but it's also a very unknown process in North America. This is a European technology, and it's only been introduced into North America in the last 13 or 14 years. And so that's relatively new and a newborn in an old, mature market because the wood industry has been around for a long time. So now you're bringing in a new technology in there. So you really need to build these relationships. And so, you know, wood is nice, but it's still not, you're not buying a Ferrari here. And so people aren't saying, whoa, I'm buying a Porsche or a Ferrari or a Maserati or a Lamborghini. I'm buying a piece of wood. But at the other point, the other side of the equation is that you're also working with people to try to help them achieve something that's going to be beautiful for them. And so how do you do that? Is again, building that network and building that relationship with them.
Bob, you said you work very hard on the Northern Heat Report to ask good questions. Let me wrap it up with this. If you're a B2B leader, whether you're a CEO, you're in marketing, and you're watching this right now, what, in your opinion, Bob, is the question that B2B leaders need to be asking themselves with respect to how are they going to bring humanity into their brand in the online world?
Well, there's the question that I wasn't thinking you were going to ask. But so let me take a stab at it. If I think about it and come back to everything we've been talking about all along, it was about building a relationship, is figure out a way on how are you going to demonstrate your passion? How are you going to get people to get to know who you are? Like this idea that I have about showcasing the community, it's not, I didn't wake up yesterday morning and say, I love our community and stuff. I've been working towards this for many, many years. Even when we first got to know each other and working at Brunswick Mines, it was all about our community. Our community was the mines and how could we get better and how could we work together. But outside of that, and when the mines closed, it was to continue on, how do we make this region survive? And how do we make everything work even better and not turn into a ghost town? And so it's all been community minded. So it is a passion of mine. And it's something that through the Northern Heat, I'm allowed to express. And so to anybody out there that, again, looking at business to business, is that how can you demonstrate your passion? And your passion is what people are going to look like, and they're going to be able to link with. They're going to be able to say, I can relate to this. I can see where you're coming from. I can understand where you're coming from. And so therefore, you're the type of person that I want to do business with.
I got to sneak one more in, Bob. Are there like 3 big insights or anything that you've learned along the way? You're about 2 years into this journey, but what tips or advice would you share?
Well, it's a moving target, and you're learning all the time. You and I have talked a number of times, and we've actually sat down here with our team and said, should we change what we're doing? Should we change the topic? Should we get in to be talking more about our business rather than talking about the community, the region, the Atlantic Canada? And and to tell you the truth, I do struggle with that. And I come back all the time, and because it all comes back to what's that compelling story and what's the message that are out there. But you know what? At the end of the day, we all boil it back into the same pot and saying, no, we're not going to change the recipe of Northern Heat. Maybe what changes inside all the time is our questioning. And so that's where we've evolved on, because, from the first time we started this, we fell upon, just great stories and stuff. But then it started coming into the question, and then what were you trying to go and thinking about what's our strategy? And the strategy around, again, comes back to the region, comes back to the community, comes back to how do we promote this and how do we increase our network at the same time? And it all comes back and boils down to finding those compelling stories and asking the right questions so people want to share and pass this on to everybody else.
Bob, very, very well said. And as your digital footprint continues to expand, my friend, all over the internet and to a YouTube channel near you, let me congratulate you for being someone who personifies that spirit of bringing the heat, making a difference. Thanks so much for doing this.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. You've been my mentor, and you launched me into this, and you knew that I'd feel uncomfortable as a engineer with 3 friends on Facebook.
But at least you've got your 9-year-old grandson in your back pocket coming up to someday maybe take over the whole empire and continue this legacy of great storytelling from the Bay of Chaleur, Bathurst, New Brunswick, the North Shore. What is it, Bob? There's no shore like
Or
the
like the
North
North
Shore.
Shore.
That's
That's
for
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah. Thanks again, Bob.
Thank you very much, Gary.
Our thanks to Bob Lennon, the Chief Marketing Officer at Thermalwood Canada. And if you want to check out Thermalwood Canada and really see what they're doing, just go to the website, because it'll speak volumes about how Bob and his team are really focused on putting that human face in the digital space. As always, thanks for watching Leaders and Legends, where you never know who you're going to meet or what you'll discover.